This is Ethan, and I'm here with Dave, and together we are Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast, episode 90-inch.
On this week's episode, we are joined by comedian and epic rap battles of history writer, Zach Sherwin.
It's Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
It's a podcast about Weird Al.
It's Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
Seriously, the whole podcast is about Weird Al.
Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
You don't have to listen, but we're glad you are.
Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
Hey, Ethan, welcome to episode 90-inch.
I can't believe it. I don't want to say this every single week, but every week it blows my mind that we've made it to yet another episode and that we're already at 90 inches.
And we're having a lot of fun getting to those 90 inches.
Yeah, it only feels like 75 inches. Well, we got a lot of fun this week, but before we get to that, let's chat a little bit about last week. We had the keyboardist, producer, engineer, mixer, Pat Regan on the show.
Yeah, it was so great to talk to somebody from early on in Weird Al history. He was on 3 of Weird Al's albums, and he toured with Weird Al for 2 separate tours.
And he told us all about getting hammered and judging a Playboy centerfold contest the night before performing at Red Rocks. So, if only for that, be sure to check out last week's episode, 89-inch.
So Pat's former bandmate, John Bermuda Schwartz, he gave us some real props for tracking down Pat. Even Bermuda didn't have Pat's contact information.
Now, of course, all credit for any of our guests really goes to our intern, Frank.
You know, that Frank, he really does a lot for this podcast.
You're right. Frank, I'd love to hear how you are able to track down such amazing guests like Pat Regan.
Yeah, Frank, come on, tell us. Now's your chance.
Oh, sorry, Frank. That story's gonna have to wait. Looks like we've got a message on the 347 Spatula Hotline. The 347 Spatula Hotline, the official hotline of Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast, is sponsored by Angel Valenzuela and David Cash, 2 amazing Weird Al fans and podcast supporters.
Hey, this is Adriana Jugovic, and this message is for Ethan. Ethan, I wanted to say thank you so much for hosting the super special surprise Jeff 45th birthday Zoom yesterday. It was pure joy, full of surprises. We got Bermuda, we got Al and Suzanne, we got 45 different Al fans, past, present, and future, from our early days of the IRC in the 90s to AlCon to Festival to the New York Times photo shoot last year to Dave and Ethan's podcast. Dave, glad you and Jackie made it too. Anyway, just wanted to send big love, big thanks, gratitude. I am so happy to be a part of this amazing, weird community. Mwah!
Mwah! Thanks for the call, Adriana.
That surprise party for Jeff was so much fun. I was just so excited to actually get an invite. It was so great catching up with so many Weird Al fans from my past and the present. And of course, all the surprise guests were fun too. Ethan, Adriana mentioned that you were involved in hosting the Zoom call. How did that come together?
Oh man, yeah, Dave, it really was a total blast. I had so much fun doing it. So Adriana Jugovic and Scott Sorensen, they came up with the idea to do a surprise party for Jeff at his house and have this extra element of he logs on Zoom and then there's another surprise party with all the people who couldn't actually be there in person. So since they were going to be physically at his house and I live on the other side of the continent, I offered to help with the Zoom call. And I helped to orchestrate the cover story to get Jeff on the Zoom call.
Oh, so you were behind the cover story. What was that cover story that you told Jeff?
So I told Jeff that you and I wanted to have him on the podcast to talk about the New York Times photo shoot. And, you know, I had all these contingencies and, you know, Kenneth was supposed to text him and say one thing, and then Adriana would say something else, and like all this stuff to try and make it work. And we didn't even have to pull out any of these crazy things, because after I invited him on the podcast, he's like, great, how about Sunday? And it just kind of worked perfectly because that's when we wanted to do the Zoom party.
I know that everybody on that call was really surprised when Weird Al himself showed up on the call. Did you know he was going to be there?
I knew there was a possibility he may show up, because I sort of had to know who was on the guest list and who to expect, because I was running the Zoom call. I had to let people in from the waiting room.
Oh, so you knew that like Bermuda and Beefalo and JW would be there though, right?
Yes. Well, actually, so Bermuda wasn't sure how much I actually knew. So before the call, he messaged me and was like, hey, Ethan, just wanted to let you know that, I gave Al the invite, so don't freak out if he shows up in the call.
Oh, no chance of that happening. I was perfectly calm the entire time. Well, what a fun surprise for Jeff and his friends and family. And from all of us here at Dave and Ethan's 2000 Inch Weird Al podcast, happy birthday, Jeff.
And speaking of birthdays, another exciting birthday is coming up next week on January 26th. It is the great Steve J's birthday.
Steve is such an amazing guy and an incredible musician. In fact, Steve performed at the Hollywood Star Ceremony VIP after party in the Viper Room with his band. And not to mention, he's been a part of Weird Al's band ever since 1982, doing stuff like playing bass guitar and orchestrating music like on Jackson Park Express.
From all of us at Dave and Ethan's 2000 Inch Weird Al podcast, happy birthday, Steve!
Steve J, what a guy.
This week's episode is brought to you in part by Discover Darwin, promoting tourism in Darwin, Minnesota. Not only is historic Darwin, Minnesota beautiful, it's also bovine.
Darwin, Minnesota is home to Paulson Cattle and Paulson Embryo Center.
Paulson Cattle prides itself on making high-quality females and industry-leading bulls. Contact them for custom donor housing, embryo implant and raising, and foreign expert capability is also available.
Of course, cattle, or cows, appear in such comedy classics as I Am Cow by the Arrogant Worms, Cows with Guns by Dana Lyons, and the endearing Crazy Cow Therapist by Bobo McNipples.
By heading to paulsoncattle.com, you can inform yourself about Mr. Hammer, Gerard Montezuma, Mr. Rhinestone Cowboy, Thomas Miss Impressive, and Wagger Playmate.
Ah, Wagger Playmate, the winner of the July 6, 1987 Playmate contest that Pat Regan and Weird Al judged before the Red Rocks Amphitheater concert the next day.
So visit Darwin, Minnesota on your next expedition. Discover Darwin, more than just the twine ball. And after you visit Darwin, be sure to visit discoverdarwin.biz.
If you have not been to our social media pages recently, you want to head on over there because we just posted a picture of our 27th Patreon supporter wearing her brand new official Dave and Ethan's 2000 Inch Weird Al podcast t-shirt.
Yes, we made an exclusive special shirt just for her, and it is, I don't know how else to say, pretty stinking majestic, and I'm totally jealous, and I wish I had one of those.
Well, you should have contributed when you had the chance.
Ah, you're right.
If you want to get in on all the fun, you can head on over to our Patreon page at patreon.com/2000inch.
Yes, and look forward to some new physical and audio rewards coming soon.
We recently made some changes to some of the tiers, so if you have not been to patreon.com/2000inch recently, head on over and check those out.
Now, Dave, do you remember our friend Mike Minnick, who I believe we've talked about or played things from him on the podcast like every week for the past 6 months? Well, in an interesting development, our friend and podcast supporter Mike Minnick texted us that he has been banned from Facebook for 24 hours.
Holy cow, that's some serious stuff. What happened?
Well, believe it or not, Mike was banned for writing, get this, Canadian idiot in a comment, which Facebook considered to be hate speech.
Wow, it's a really good thing he did not call someone a frostbitten hosehead.
I had no idea that referencing Weird Al songs was considered hate speech. Well, maybe it's still Billy Joel to me.
So please be careful out there if you are posting about Weird Al on social media. You never know who's reading your posts and might take offense. You know, Mike, none of this would have happened if you had just used hashtag 2000inch and hashtag Gill and Chill on your posts like you are supposed to.
Yeah, and this all happened so soon after you sent us that new theme song, Mike. Dave, do you think it was a coincidence?
Let me just say that Zuck owed me a favor and leave it at that.
Sure, Dave.
It is always our pleasure to have comedy musicians on the podcast, and it is our extra pleasure when those comedy musicians have also worked with Weird Al himself.
We're very excited to welcome to the podcast. He's a rapper, he's a comedian, he's the creator of the Crossword Show. You may have seen him all the time on epic rap battles of history. You've heard his lyrics on Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, and we're so excited to welcome him to the podcast. Please welcome Zach Sherwin. How's it going, Zach?
Hi, Ethan and Dave. It's so nice to be here with you guys. I'm doing great. You know,
Yeah.
with one part of my brain, another part feels a different thing.
Of course, we understand completely. So, Zach, you and I, we've known each other for a long time. We, of course, met in July 2009 after you opened for Mike Birbiglia in Rhode Island. And what an amazing show that was.
Thank you. I have really interesting feelings about thinking back on that memory. I was pretty green at the time, at least at being a solo performer. And I was excited to get to open for Mike, and the crowd of very affluent, I would say middle to elderly Rhode Islanders that I was performing for didn't seem quite as hip to my takeoff on rap as some of the crowds I was used to performing for in those heady early days. People exactly like me in Cambridge, Massachusetts.
Right.
But so I felt a little, I knew I had something to offer, but it didn't really seem like it translated. And, of course, it was like exciting to get to open for a comedian who I recognized like Mike. And so, I had some mixed feelings about it. But one distinct memory I have afterwards is that like feeling a little out of place, and like it wasn't a bomb, but, it was I was working up there. And afterwards you came up and you were so friendly and were like, I mean, I don't know if you said this verbatim, but I just recollect you being like, I get what you're doing and I like it and it's for me. And we've been, look at us.
I know.
It's so much time later. So thanks for being a kind presence.
It's a testament to your great talents. I mean, for anyone who's not familiar with your work, before you even started with Epic Rap Battles, you released albums and all these amazing music videos of your comedy rap songs. And really, anyone who's into comedy music and maybe isn't familiar with rap, I think you are a great gateway in, because it's not like hard to follow. It's just super funny. It's super clever. There's a lot of really fun wordplay. And, that obviously has lent itself to you working on epic rap battles of history. And, we'll get to it eventually, but working with Weird Al and writing rap lyrics for him to sing.
Well, thanks for all those compliments, man. That's all really nice.
Yeah, I'm curious how you got started with epic rap battles. What was the progression from you doing your own rapping into doing something, as, let's say, epic as epic rap battles is?
Yeah, well, the origin story is like in college, got involved with a comedy group with some friends of mine. And I went to Brandeis University in Waltham, Massachusetts. And we would sometimes go up to the University of Massachusetts Amherst for a comedy festival that they would have. And in what I now know to be a real cliche of what happens at these kinds of things, there would be parties after the show, and a bunch of white guys would stand around and freestyle rap with each other. And, lots we could say about that. But what I will say about it in the context of the question you asked, Dave, is that one of the UMass comedy scene's alumni was Lloyd Alquist, who would go on to be one of the two principal dudes of Epic Rap Battles of History, Epic Lloyd. But this was he was lowercase Epic Lloyd, at the time, but many years away from being capital E Epic Lloyd. And we were like, there were also in those ciphers, by the way, was Chris Sullivan, aka Shockwave, the beatboxer for Freestyle Love Supreme of Broadway and television fame.
Wow.
So it was like a cool little talent assemblage in that UMass basement. But yeah, Lloyd and I really liked rapping with each other, and we became friends, and we stayed in touch. He was improvising with a comedy group called Mission Improvable, and they were really, really big on the college scene, and they hired a lot of improvisers, including Pete Shukoff, who would go on to be Nice Peter. And was at the time lowercase n Nice Peter. I didn't know him. Maybe he still had some growing up to do. Yeah, so they met there. Lloyd and I had been friends at UMass, and then when I moved to LA at the beginning of 2010, I didn't know anyone in town, and so I reached out to the people I did know, which definitely included Lloyd, who was managing a theater at the time, which he would later buy. But he's always been in a power position there, and we did this show that was like me and him and Pete, and it was like a very primitive early version of Epic Rap Battles of History. It was like the audience would suggest people. I am not a battle rapper, but Lloyd and I would like improvise battle raps in historical character. And then, yeah, Pete was at one of the shows. He was getting his YouTube channel up and running. They went and took Epic Rap Battles and like turned it into the viral sensation that it is. But yeah, I've been around since the first battle I wrote on was, I think, in 2011, and I believe it was Gandalf versus Dumbledore, I think, was the first one that I ever submitted lyrics for. And yeah, since then they've made many, many dozens of them, and I've written for a lot of them and acted in, I believe it's 10 at this point. So yeah, it's so funny to look back and just see how that road led to my current position.
Yeah.
And, you just never know what relationships are going to wind up being ones that are like super significant. Life is weird.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, look what brought you to Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
Thanks, Joe Birbiglia, Mike's older brother, who saw me at the Comedy Studio doing better than I would in Rhode Island.
So, speaking of epic rap battles of history, I'm curious how that whole process works. Are you just writing a bunch of lines and then everyone submits them and they pick their favorites, or what exactly is that process?
Yeah, thanks. That's a generous question. I guess it's changed. Well, so it changes over the years, and it also changes based on my involvement. So when I'm gonna play a character, like, I have much more. I think they just really like want to respect the fact that I'm also a person who makes music, and they're good guys, and they want it to be good, and they don't want to interfere with, like the most natural lines that I'm actually going to be delivering. So if I'm playing a character, it's pretty like, they don't hand over the wheel, and I might include lines that they really want to get in, but yeah, more latitude there. If I'm writing for another character, sometimes it's been remote, like especially in phases of my career where I'm traveling more. And sometimes, we're literally like meeting up at the headquarters in LA and, sitting around and like hashing out lines syllable by syllable, which is honestly some of the most arduous work, like the way that work goes. But also it's so fun to like have everybody's brain paying attention to like the same word. It just is a very special alchemy that I think emerges when that's happening.
Wow.
So yeah, there's a lot of ways it can go.
Now, do you know in advance which celebrity will be playing the character that you're writing for, or are you just writing for the character in general?
That's a good question. I really am just a cog in the wheel of the whole machine, and there's a lot of pieces that I don't touch, and one of those is like talent booking. So sometimes that's part of the conversation, but we really are writing to the character. And then if casting gets settled, like, that can inform our writing. But I would say a really good example is like when they booked Snoop Dogg to do I believe he was Moses in Moses versus Santa Claus.
Wow.
We wrote a line that was like, with so much drama in Israel, BC. It was something about Israel, BC, like the LBC at the beginning of Gin and Juice.
Okay.
Is that translating in this recreation on the podcast? His first line in Gin and Juice is, with so much drama in the LBC, and we had Moses say, with so much drama in Israel, BC, which we loved. And isn't a joke that you could write for anybody except Snoop Dogg, and we actually didn't think he would say it. But he's like a really good sport and mostly just wants to, like, in my perception, escalate the Snoop Dogg brand. So he was really a good sport about it, and he says it in the video.
That's so great. I remember that video. That's a great one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was great. I believe the follow-up line is, so the original lyric goes, with so much drama in the LBC, it's kind of hard being Snoop D-O-double-G. And in ours, shouts to hat tip to Dante, one of the other writers who finished it out. But it was like, with so much drama in Israel, BC, it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard talking directly to the G-O single D, which I just think is brilliant. Oh man,
being hired and getting to write comedy rap for pay, it must be like a dream come true for you when you first got that job.
Yeah, I mean, it's really wonderful. And it's just been so helpful. Like, it's opened a lot of doors, and like the first time I ever did TV was on the amazing comedian W. Kamau Bell's show Totally Biased on FX.
Yep.
And Kamau, just like that, he's such a friend and a like person that I look up to, and he's such a great comedian in so many ways. But he invited me to do that show on the strength of being an Epic Rap Battles fan, and it just like, yeah, it opened doors. It was really great, and it's super fun. I mean, now that I've created the Crossword Show, it's like that's all I want to do ever. But writing on Epic Rap Battles, like during the pandemic, I would be working really hard. So Ethan, you've been to Crossword Shows before. I wrote a whole new one during the pandemic, and now I'm moving on to like the second one that I'll be writing during all of this.
Oh, cool.
And it's really demanding and like all-consuming to be working on those shows. I feel like I go inside myself and like scoop out the raw material. And so I was also writing like Epic Rap Battles during that, and it was really cool to like use a different part of my energy and like kind of take a break while still being creative. So yeah, I really get a lot out of it, and it's just a cool. It is really cool and special to like have an outlet to put this like pretty specific set of things that Pete and Lloyd and I and the other people who work on the series are into.
I want to go back to another question you answered, where when you are portraying a character, you get a little bit more say on the lines. When you are portraying someone like, Albert Einstein or Wayne Gretzky or, one of those other ones, do you also still contribute lines to the other person, or are you kind of sectioned off like, I'm just working on my own stuff?
I would say in general, everyone contributes lines to every part, but I think I get more say when I'm playing a character, and definitely more veto power. Like, yeah, I'm not going to say that.
Mm-hmm.
Not that that happens too often, but, it's happened. And so, yeah, that's good. And I would say, yeah, I mean, mostly it's like all hands on deck, it's like you just want it to be.
Right.
Those guys really taught me good stuff early on, where I would like submit lines that would be the entire, like 3/4 of it would be set up for the punchline that happened at the end of the couplet. And, just the beginning would be basic rap boasting and posturing. And I remember them being like, no, the first half has to have like at least a joke, and it has to set up the second half. So, you're trying to get a lot done in a limited amount of time. So you do need everybody's brain making every line as tight as possible.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you ever, though, like, afterwards in the comments where people, vote on who their favorite is, does it hurt your feelings? Like if people say Edgar Allan Poe won or Batman won?
I literally never read Epic Rap Battles comments.
Good call.
It's not like I want to and have taken a stance against it. It's just not something I do. I looked at I really, really thought they did a tremendous job with the one that just came out, the Lego one with Harry Potter and Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They really, really brought it on that one. And so I was looking through the comments on that. And that was really fun. But no, I mean, like, there's a nice distance for me from those, you know? Like, it's harder to make final decisions on Crossword Show things, for instance, because it's so personal and it feels like me and like my thing. And with ERB and also some of the other stuff I've done, like, you know, it's like nice to have a little distance from it because then you can treat it like a task that needs to get done, which it ultimately is, as opposed to being like, this is art that I'm a huge fan of and have a lot of skin in the game. I think that can distort your ability to just like see what needs to be done to get the point across as best as you can.
Well, we'll get back to Epic Rap Battles, but since you brought it up, what can you tell us about the Crossword Show? Maybe somebody who hasn't seen it yet. How would you describe what the Crossword Show is?
Thank you, Dave. So, yeah, the Crossword Show is like I feel like it's the culmination of all the things that I've been trying to figure out what the hell to do with all these years. You know, the like short elevator pitch version is that it's I'm hosting a panel of guest comedians, sort of like Wait, Don't Tell Me, if you've ever heard that show on NPR. But there's like a panel of funny people on stage, and I take them through the solving of an actual crossword puzzle that I co-create with someone who publishes puzzles in the New York Times. We use a different crossword constructor every time. It's displayed up on a big screen, so the crowd can follow along with all the solving action. And I walk the guest solvers through. And every time they like decipher a clue, I take the show down like a wordplay or trivia or a comedy rabbit hole that's somehow connected to the answer word. And then we come back and keep on solving the puzzle. And by the end of it, all the answer words start tying together in these unbelievable mystic coincidences that kind of dazzle me. And the grand finale is like an answer words rap where I use all of the words that the comedians solved into the grid to like tie together all the big themes of the show in like an epic grand finale, to use a word we've trotted out during this podcast. It's like my favorite thing, man. It has comedy and rap and wordplay and being a host and trivia quizzes. It's like all the stuff that I think is really fun to consume and to perform. And I just love it. I mean, like I'm holding myself back as hard as I can to not gush even more than I am right now. But I'm very geeked about my own project, and I feel very lucky to have figured it out.
Well, Zach, I'm happy to gush on your behalf because I've been to 2 of the shows, and they're just absolutely amazing. Actually, I don't know if you know this, it was the last show I went to before the pandemic hit and wasn't able to go to any more shows. So at least I ended on a really high note, but words don't do it justice. It's one of those shows where I brought my girlfriend to that second one, and I tried to explain it to her beforehand, and I just kind of gave up. I'm like, you just have to go. And, you know, as soon as she saw it, she understood, and she became obsessed with it, as I am. But it's just, you know, the show, like you said, it's like a journey. And by the end of it, your mind just keeps blowing, like over and over and over. It's like, oh my God, my mind has been blown. Nothing can blow my mind again. And then like 5 seconds later, that happens again. And it just keeps repeating. And it's so hard to describe how awesome and fantastic and funny, but also rewarding the show is as an audience member. So I really can't wait for live shows to be happening again so people can see them. But one really cool thing that you've started doing this year is you have a YouTube series with kind of like little tidbits and Easter eggs from the Crossword Show called Crossword Show Solos.
Ethan Ullman making me feel seen since August 2009. Is that what you said? Is that what you said it was? Thanks for all those things you said about the show. And actually, I will just say before I answer your question that we did a tour of the newest Crossword Show, number 4, that ended March 6th, 2020. And Tom Hanks Wednesday was the 11th. So we were really hitting up against the end of it. And,
wow.
Yeah, so man, like we saw each other right at the tail end of that. So we feel extremely fortunate that we got to do such a electric, like, you know, sold out, packed house feeling kind of tour, so close to like the time that everything shut down. And it really does mean a lot to me that that's like a through line, that we've been friends for so long and that you've been so supportive, and to see you at that show was really awesome. So thank you for what you said, and thank you for coming. And I'm glad you were there too. And then, yeah, when the pandemic hit, I was like, I had started writing show 5, and it's always terrifying to begin a new show because there's so much that goes into them, and you at the beginning really don't know how it's going to work. So far it has. But I started writing show 5 and I just thought, what is this going to be? And I wrote it for the first months of the pandemic. That was like all I did was work on that show. And it has turned out to be a show about creating art during the experience of a global pandemic. And it's like a time capsule that, like, when we perform it, it'll be like, if you're seeing this show, then it means that circumstances have improved enough for live shows to happen again. And it's going to be really cool. I'm excited to do that one. It's going to be different than anything else has been. But then, yeah, so now I'm going to actually directly answer your question. This has all been lead up. I started thinking, like, well, what are we going to do? Like, it's going to take months to create a new virtual show. Maybe things will be over by then and we'll all be vaccinated, or it'll go away or something. And so in the meantime, we started making these videos called solos, which are, as the name implies, like standalone pieces of content kind of split out from the show. A lot of them are part of like more elaborate show architecture in the full thing, but we were like, well, we can kind of cannibalize our own work and it won't like ruin anything for people who come see the full thing. So yeah, we will have released 21 videos since August. And I'm really proud that we've managed to put out so much content during such adverse circumstances. And so, yeah, sorry to plug so heavy-handedly, but it is all on my YouTube channel, which is Zach Sherwin. So yeah, I encourage binging. I think it lends itself to binging.
It's like, I don't know if you guys are familiar, like if you have a show you watch with your spouse where it's like, oh, don't watch, the new Breaking Bad episode without me. That's how the Crossword Show solos have been in my house. We have to watch them together.
Get out of here. I'm not well enough hydrated to start weeping because of how touched I am. Thank you, Ethan.
Now, one really exciting part about the solos is a past guest of ours actually did the theme song. How did that come about?
So, okay, here's how it came about. I wrote a song called The Letter Song that goes, if you're the kind of nerd who likes letters and words, then a pretty cool word is letter. There's an L on the left and an R on the right and a palindrome et in the center. Okay, so that's the letter song. It's very short. And I just thought it was like really fun and catchy. And we wanted a theme song for me to walk out to. There's always an awkward moment at the beginning of the Crossword Show where whoever's on the mic in the theater goes, please welcome your host, Zach Sherwin. And then I walk out and the crowd claps. And then I like need a minute to like set down my stuff at the little music stand or podium where I perform. And it was just like quiet. And we were like, we need a rockin' guitar intro to play while I'm coming out. So we hit up my good friend Mike Furman, who is just an incredible multi-instrumentalist and producer with such a good sense of humor. And he turned what is kind of like a boop-a-doo, boop-a-dee, bop-a-da, bop-a-doo type of song into like a really amazing like power pop song instrumental. And that's what I walk out to on stage. And it is also the like theme music in a truncated form that we use for the solos intro, like the little what's it called? The little stinger at the beginning of each episode. And yeah, it's awesome because I love having Mike Furman's like amazing work in there, but it also sort of reminds me, or at least is a nod to, what it feels like to walk out on stage and start a show. So yeah, it's got some good significance, and I love that he was a past guest. He's so amazing.
Well, another past guest who I believe has some connection to the Crossword Show is our friend Craig Bill Nye, aka Hot Licks Houlihan.
What? He sure does. I didn't know Hot Licks is an alum. Hot Licks was a solver. He was a guest solver for LA Story, our second puzzle, in Petaluma, California. He did a show there. He is old buddies with my co-producer Dominic Del Bene, another part of Team Crossword Show. And Dominic was like, Craig will be great. So he was a hilarious guest, and we've remained friends ever since. And we are on a text thread that trades spoonerisms. You guys know spoonerisms?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Let me pull up the most recent one in our thread just to give you a sense of it. I'm going to do that while we're talking. But so we've got this spoonerism thread going. He's a big spoonerism fan. And also he knows a Japanese punk band called the Garlic Boys, who we had occasion to need a cameo from in one of the shows, and Craig managed to get Larry from the Garlic Boys, their lead guitarist, to send us a picture of himself holding a sign that said something that sets up a joke in the show. So,
Cool.
yeah, he's awesome.
That's so great.
I love Craig.
Us too.
I'm looking for good Craig Spoonerisms to share. Okay, here he goes. So apparently, he says in our text thread with a couple other friends, so apparently Pizza Hut offers pizza bowls, which is pizza without the crust. I would not order a Hut bowl, which if you switch the initial sounds, aka spoonerize it, Hut bowl gives you butthole. Craig Billmeyer, everybody! Hot Licks Houlihan! Maybe didn't know that was going to be said on a podcast.
Well, back to Crossword Show. For people who are interested in checking it out and joining the email list, I know there's new things coming soon. Head over to crosswordshow.com. And, of course, you have a Patreon for it, patreon.com/crosswordshow, where there's a lot of extra little goodies and perks for those who want to check it out.
Yeah, thanks, man, for plugging it. And we're going to be, by the time this comes out, we will be underway into writing a 6th show, which will be intended to be virtual from square one. That's a crossword puzzle joke. And square one across. The website is going to be, our email list is where we'll put out like the freshest updates about what's happening with that. And then, my Patreon, I'm putting out new music every month on it, which is exciting and not something I've done in a long time. So, that's been cool to re-engage with that. So, thanks. We can stop plugging.
Well, I think we've held the audience long enough. I think it's time we should talk about your work with Weird Al and the epic rap battle Sir Isaac Newton versus Bill Nye.
So I think I first met Al in passing, like backstage in a green room somewhere. And I was an enormous fan when I was a kid. And we met at like a comedy bang bang, like Christmas spectacular type party at some theater in Hollywood. And I was with Mike Kaplan, and someone was like, Mike, come backstage. So we went back, and Al was back there. And I remember just being like, oh, my God, this is amazing. I'm such a fanboy. I didn't even know how much I was. And someone was like, Al, this is Zach. And he was like, oh, hi. And we shook hands. He was super friendly. He had no reason to be as friendly as he was. But, I'm sure you've heard person after person tell you he's the nicest. That was I've met him, I think, a handful of times. But that was the first time I met him. And then the second time I met him, I remember the Epic Rap Battles guys were starting to get, more famous guests. They were never, to their credit, geeked about they never got celebrities for the sake of getting celebrities. And they were very emphatic about that. I can think of at least one time where they had a pretty big name booked to do something, but they were putting their foot down about what characters they would and wouldn't play, and the ERB guys walked away. And I remember thinking that was real cool.
Wow.
So I think they got Snoop. That was pretty exciting. I could have my dates wrong here, but I think Snoop came first. And so I remember just them saying, we have Al on board, and I think they ran some characters by him, or maybe he came with the idea. I'm not totally clear on this part. But my involvement for me begins when I was booked in a very rare headlining spot at a comedy club. I was in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and the guys were like, I had written most of the lyrics, or a big chunk of the lyrics for Al's verses. They had sort of let me take point on that. And they were like, these seem pretty specific. They're good, but like instead of us learning how to rap lines that you wrote for Al to like do the demo to, why don't we just eliminate the middleman and like just you track the demo vocals? And maybe they were going to use my demo as like a them demo, and then they would track the vocals and send those to Al. But however it happened, I remember being in like a terrible hotel room in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and being real tired from staying up late to do the shows, and super jet lagged. But I woke up and I was like, I have to demo these lyrics so Weird Al can listen to it. And
The pressure.
Yeah, totally. When I tracked the vocals, I remember I was trying to put like a 5% amount of like Al imitation on my delivery. Like I didn't want him to feel embarrassed or like, insulted or something. But I thought I just want Al to hear how I hear him saying these, like the slightest subtle little bit. So I tried to Al it up just the right amount and ride the line. And then I sent it off, and then I remembered the guys being like, yeah, we sent that to Al. And I remember thinking, what? No, it wasn't. I wasn't. Whoa, wait. So self-consciousness is really the enemy. And if you can get out of its way, it can really open things up. But yeah, then like I sort of didn't think about it that much. And then they were like, hey, Al is coming into the studio today. Do you want to swing through? Like, and maybe not stay the whole time. But because like we don't want to weird him out with too many people there that he doesn't know, but it would be cool, and like we want to, we know it would be cool for you. And I remember I was busy, but I was like, I thought about saying no for a second, and then I was like, what are you doing, you idiot? Say yes to this. And so I drove out to the studio, and he came in, and I just said, hi, Al, I'm Zach. I'm one of the writers. And he seemed to know who I was from the demo. And he went in the isolation room and I was over in the control room, and he started recording the lyrics, and it was instantly obvious what a pro he was. He was there to do a job, and he was really, really like, I'm no expert on studio technique, but his mastery was apparent of the recording environment. And I remember watching him record and listening to the takes come through, and I thought, Al is imitating me, imitating him on the demo. Like it was clear he was like, he had made it his own, but it was clear he'd studied the demo. And it was just such a, it really made me feel good. I felt like I had like a communication with like a member of another species within the world of showbiz, like Al is such an icon. And I'm just, it's just different orders of magnitude. And so to have, in a way, like had a bit of a conversation with him through these demos and then into the recording booth was really, really cool. And then the next time we met, we were both guests on a web show, and I was on before him and he was the guest after me. And I said, hey, Al, I'm Zach from Epic Rap Battles. And he was like, hey, Zach, how you doing? It was, either he really remembered me or he's an incredible actor, but he was super friendly and nice. And we've met a time or two since. And I always remind him who I am when we cross paths because, you don't want to put anyone in that situation. But he is just a really, really, he's a good dude.
Absolutely. How cool.
And he rapped his ass off on that battle. He really brings it.
He sure did, yeah.
And he's in character, and he's also being Al, like doing the Al thing.
Right.
He's like, he knows his instrument himself like 100% of the way through.
So I was looking at the Epic Rap Battles like fan Wikipedia page, and I don't know if this is true, but it says that the last line in the rap is actually the longest line delivered by someone on Epic Rap Battles. So you wrote and made Al do like the hardest thing possible, and he nails it.
He does, yeah. And we gave him a different delivery of it with the like emphasis at different points in that long equation. And by the way, I don't know I don't really know if I can take credit for writing that lyric, which is entirely a said out loud mathematical equation. So can't take more credit than is due. But we did paste those words into a Word doc. And he took that in a different direction. I remember thinking like, oh no, it's different, it's wrong. But his way totally worked and wound up being the way, and definitely isn't wrong. But it was different than mine.
Oh, interesting.
Oh.
Yeah. And I'm really angry about it. No, just kidding. It's totally great. And, it's cool. It's cool to see how most of it worked, and then there was a thing that he wanted to change because he saw a way to improve it. It's like like I said, it's just cool communication, and it's cool that I got to have it with Al.
Yeah.
A childhood hero.
Cool.
Was there any lyric changes, or was it just kind of inflection stuff?
No, I think he really just did it. I think that, like, yeah, those guys they're good hosts, the Epic Rap Battles guys. They send the lyrics, but most of the time I don't think people want to make major changes because, we put a lot of time into the lyrics, and, also they're busy celebrities who are doing like a guest spot, so they're not going to spend the hours that we do like tinkering and toiling. So, yeah, no, I think Al pretty much just came in and did it. And, you don't give Al like super, like he's not, like referring to other characters by like misogynist gendered language or something like that. Like you kind of write it to stuff that they're going to be comfortable delivering.
Right. Now, for collectors out there, like Dave and I, who we love to have any kind of physical thing with, Weird Al on it, there are only 2 opportunities to get this song actually on a physical disc. And the first one was Epic Rap Battles. They put out a very limited edition Season 3 CD that included both that track, and it also had the track that you recorded in your hotel room. As like a bonus track, which was really cool. And Zach, I don't know if you're aware of this, but Al put out this really amazing set spanning his entire career, all 14 albums, plus a 15th album of rarities, and this is included on that. So that song that you had a hand in writing is now in an official Weird Al release.
I don't know this. The one with Al's vocals? Surely you don't mean the demo we sent.
No, not the demo. Yeah, the one with Al's vocals. Right.
I can imagine the irate Al superfans being like, "Who the hell is this?" I have I'm so glad I'm remembering this. Actually, I remembered it and forgot it like 4 times, including once already during this podcast. But I went to go see Al at the Hollywood Bowl, maybe in like 2015, 2016, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And as I probably don't need to say to you guys or anyone listening to this podcast, but just in case, Al like performs a song and then goes backstage for a costume change, and like one of the billions of videos he's been in over the years plays. And I was way up in the nosebleed seats at the Hollywood Bowl. And the place was packed, and Al was having a great show, and he went backstage, and that battle started playing, and I was just sitting way, way up in these terrible seats at the Hollywood Bowl, and just listening to words that I wrote reverberate through, and I just thought, this is surreal. And I imagined myself turning to my neighbor and being like, I wrote this. Don't you understand? This is my work. And it was just a very cool moment. And then I texted Lloyd, Epic Lloyd, and I was like, dude, I went to the bowl and Al. And he wrote back and was like, oh yeah, dude, we were down in the VIP box seats. We should have told you about it. And I was like, maybe I should have quit while I was ahead.
Dave, weren't you at that show too?
I was at the Hollywood Bowl shows. I was at both of them. I think he did 2 shows back to back there. I don't know which one you were at, but yeah, I was at both of those as well. That was definitely a lot of fun with the full orchestra and everything. Yeah, it was great.
Oh, right. I forgot about that. Yeah, that was incredible.
Yeah. Those 2 Hollywood Bowl shows that he did with the orchestra was what set up him eventually to do the Strings Attached tour, which was an entire tour full of orchestra, which also the Epic Rap Battles of History clip was included on that tour as well.
Wow. And all because Lloyd and I drunkenly ciphered in a college basement. 2002 or something.
So Zach, have you seen Al any other time or just at the bowl?
I saw him at the bowl, and then the first time I saw him was at the Costa Mesa Fairgrounds, maybe in like 2012 or something like that. He just did like a fairgrounds show. And I didn't know what it was going to be. Both in like I had no idea how a Weird Al concert worked, and also I had never thought about it. And so I was utterly unprepared for what a masterful experience that is. You know, I have to say, I really try to have, you can't always do it. And, you know, Al is so, I mean, he's just so, he's like real deal and true blue. I think he's very much like, you know, he attempts to do the best possible job with every aspect of what he does. And I'm very far from achieving it, but like, I want to be the kind of performer and experience provider, like entertainment experience provider. Oh, entertainer is the word we have in English for that. Who like, he's clearly thought about every aspect of like what's happening out there. And like, you know, even like walking out to my podium at the Crossword Show, I think I can directly attribute to Al, among other influences, but he is certainly among them, that like, you have to think about every bit of it. So even when you're backstage for a costume change, even if it's dazzlingly, jaw-droppingly fast and actually part of the entertainment value of the show itself, to be like, how did he get out of that and into that and back so soon? Nevertheless, you need to keep people entertained with like a video happening while that's going on. So yeah, it's just a very dense, tightly packed show to go to, and it was pretty eye-opening to see how well it's done.
Now, did you have any inkling that they would play the epic Rap Battles of History clip at the show, or was that a total surprise for you when you saw it at the Hollywood Bowl?
Total surprise, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Nice.
It was so perfect. I wouldn't even trade it again to be in the VIP seats. Like, I was just so surprised, and yeah, it was just great. It was such a perfect way for it to go.
I can't even imagine.
Also, Dave, do you remember? I felt like a lot of the crowd like didn't exactly know what they were seeing, so I remember being like, "Huh, this could be going over a little better in the bowl." Because I just think if you knew what Rap Battles was, great, but for people who'd never heard of it, it was like, what's he wearing? Who is he? What's happening? So that was funny too. I like when it doesn't go exactly right.
Yeah.
One of the things we do on the podcast is we have these bonus episodes where Ethan and I, when we go to a concert, we review the entire concert. And we did that for the Strings Attached tour, which also had the epic Rap Battles of History clip in it. And it was one of the moments in the review that we always looked forward to, because we had a little running joke going on in our reviews about this clip. And there's a little bit of controversy, so I'm hoping you can clear this up for us. Okay. So in the lyrics, where Sir Isaac Newton says, first law, I'm not going to rap this because I'm definitely not a rapper. I'm just going to read it. So first law, did you catch that, or did it go too fast to detect? Perhaps it would be better if I added in a bleep or a bloop or another wacky sound effect. Right, those are the lyrics, you know, that Sir Isaac Newton raps.
Well delivered. Yep.
So at the end of the that set of lyrics is the word effect, E-F-F-E-C-T.
Okay.
Well, on the video clip that was playing at the concert, it says another wacky sound effect, A-F-F-E-C-T.
Okay.
So I noticed that it, you know, said something's not right there. You know, it's obviously not correct English, you know, to say effect. You know, and you would know, you know, you definitely go through all the, defining all the words in your, crossword solos and things like that. So, I mean, I don't need to think I need to go through the definition of effect and affect, but you definitely know the difference.
I'm on your side,
them.
Dave.
So far,
said nothing I disagree with.
Good. So one day I was doing some just kind of surfing through YouTube, and I came across the Sir Isaac Newton versus Bill Nye, epic Rap Battles of History. I said, I've got to watch this. It's such a great clip. I watched it, and I noticed that it said another wacky sound effect, and it was spelled E-F-F-E-C-T in the official video on the YouTube page.
Oh my
So
God.
I'm kind of wondering, where did this alternative version that Al got that says AFFECT, incorrect, of course, where did that come from? Do you have any insight on this? And how can we get Al a copy of the correct spelling video so when he does play this clip in the future, he can put up the correct spelling of effect?
Totally. He's an unknowing word crime perpetrator.
Yeah, you would think so, right? With word crimes, that would be the first thing he would notice, and he'd say, "Oh, something's wrong with this clip."
That's really interesting. I am not going to hold out on you. I have no insight into this. I will say that I am like a serious like spelling and grammar fuss budget. And
yeah.
I've stopped, let me put it this way. I've stopped offering to the ERB guys to let me do a quick last proofread pass before something goes out on the titles. Because despite the many times I've offered, they don't seem that interested in taking me up on it. So I often notice typos in their lyrics and wince.
Okay.
And then I look at how many views the videos get and I think maybe my priorities are misplaced. Maybe this is less important than I think it is. But it's for moments just like this where it makes me I feel protective of Al, that he's going out there with a misspelled caption in his a title in his. I want to like fix that. I mean, I just spent like 10 minutes talking about how amazingly attended to every detail of his performances, but you're right. My only guess is that they sent him an early version of it. And then there were like they sent him version like 10.1 and then they made a couple more tweaks. And what they wound up publishing at the last minute was 10.3. It's
Right.
like you can make revisions up until you hit publish and they're apt to. So that would be my guess as to how Al did that. I can't imagine they gave him untitled footage and then he like retitled it. I guess that's my second possibility. It seems not likely to be what happened. So no insight there, but it is not the case that the ERB guys are trying to send a secret message to super attentive fans like yourself by writing affect instead of effect or effect. So yeah, I think you can trust your instincts here. That is an error. And how to get Al, man, that's a tough one. That is a really tough one. I don't think I have the answer to it.
There's another thing in that video that in these bonus episodes where Dave and I would report on it each week, I also decided that I had an issue with in the line it says, "You want a battle guy? That's a crazy notion." Guy was capitalized, and I had an issue with that. But later on in the bonus episodes, as we went to more shows on the tour, I decided that Guy was actually a reference to Bill Nye the Science Guy, and then I was okay with it being capitalized. Do you agree with that?
It's 100%. This one I can speak to absolutely with clarity. It is what you eventually came to is where we wanted you to get to.
Excellent.
Excellent.
But that is why it would be good to make sure that those captions are like really, really careful, because there are bonus jokes that come through in those words with the captions, and you want to make sure that people aren't like, well, wait, maybe that's a fun bonus joke, or maybe they just screwed up. So, yeah.
Right.
But no, I confirm your instincts there. It's a Bill Nye the
Excellent.
Science Guy thing.
Excellent.
Okay.
Yep. That's fun.
I'm glad that you were able to confirm that it is indeed effect, EFFECT. And the good news is that the version on the YouTube page with the 70 million views, it is spelled correctly, EFFECT. So it's only the thousands of fans that go see Weird Al Yankovic in concert who get to see the misspelled effect.
The secret version.
And a subset of those who would ever notice it. But I am among that subset, so I understand.
Yes.
I can understand the concern and anxiety seeing that would cause.
All right, I wanted to mention on a few more potential crossover with Weird Al that you've had. Now, last year we actually spoke to the director of the Palindromists, Vince Clementi, and we talked to him about how both your name and Mike Kaplan, another former guest of ours, name showed up in the special thanks credits. So you actually were intended to be in that documentary that Al was also in?
Yeah, which I hope you appreciated the bonus palindrome content earlier with the palindrome in the center of the word letter.
Oh, I did.
I know you did. I don't feel betrayed. I feel safe. I and Mike and others, Dax Jordan and of course Mark Saltivite, participated in a competition Mark set up at the Bridgetown Comedy Festival in Portland, Oregon in like 2016. Is that when it was? And we 17, I think. It was called Palindrome Fight, and it was like competitive palindrome creation. And so yes, I think they filmed that for possible inclusion in the documentary, and we didn't make the cut, but we are in the bonus features or something. And I can't remember who won. Oh no, it was me. I won.
Do you remember any of your palindromes?
Oh man, there's such a good one about Back to the Future, which was one of the audience suggestions. It was something about, it involved like, Mom, no snog on Mom. Something like that. It was about the scene where he makes out with his mom in the car at the dance. See, I don't remember it exactly, but it involved saying no to your mom about snogging. And I think the G was the letter in the middle that made it a palindrome.
That's amazing.
Mom, no, snog. I really am going to fight the impulse to work it out live on mic here. I'll follow up with you afterwards.
Okay.
Okay.
Snog on Mom. No, just kidding. I'm done. Okay.
So another potential connection I wanted to talk about is you actually wrote a few songs for the show Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, which Al shows up and has a cameo in.
Oh, I didn't realize Al was a member of the Crazy Ex-Girlfriend canon. Cool.
Yeah.
Not surprised. Rachel's an incandescently talented musical comedian, so that makes sense.
Yeah, how did you get involved with Crazy Ex-Girlfriend? I know once you did, you told me that you wrote something for it, and then I was like, all right, I guess I'll watch the show to see Zach's song, and then I got obsessed with the show.
Well, it's such a good, worthy show.
It is. So how did you get involved with that?
Man, Rachel Bloom, the co-creator of that show, and its star, and I knew each other from like the musical comedy trenches, just like doing live spots around LA in the early 2010s. And I remember seeing her at spots and stuff. We were both out a lot at the time doing like crappy live shows. And we'd be on the same ones as musical comics. We kind of would often see each other.
Yeah.
And we liked each other. We were friends. And not close friends, but hey, buddy. And I remember she got the show, and I saw her shortly afterwards. I knew that it had like sort of gone to like it was at Showtime first, and then they wound up passing or something. And I remember being slightly tuned in because it was like the most a person that I knew was getting a TV show at the time. And then she got it, and I like saw the news that it was going to be a series, and we saw each other. And I very specifically remember that she was like, "You're going to do work on that show." And, you know, talk is cheap, and a lot of people say stuff that doesn't wind up materializing, not because they're bad people, but because you want to offer, you know, give ends to the friends, and it feels stupendous. But Rachel, like, really came through. And the first time, or that I was aware of, that they needed a rap for the show, she was like, hey, we need kind of like a Nicki Minaj parody thing. You think you can do a style parody? Now, guys, a style parody is the name in musical no, just kidding. So, yeah, I wrote the first song I wrote for them was called I Give Good Parent. And I remember, here's a quick anecdote about it. I was used to, when I submit lyrics remotely for epic rap battles, what I was used to doing is that I would just write a stack of couplets and just like send it in and let them pick through and take what they wanted. And so I wrote a stack of couplets for Crazy X and sent it in, and they were like, great. And then that was what they used. And I was like, oh my God, I'm glad it worked out and made sense, but I didn't really design it like that. But they know what they're doing, and they still made it their own. But I would have submitted it differently if I'd known it was gonna, you know. But yeah, so then I wound up writing 3 more songs for them, or writing or co-writing. I mean, I didn't write any of them all by myself, but I wrote on 3 more songs for the show. Jap Battle and a song called So Maternal, and then the Jap Battle reprise in the last episode.
Yes. And Jap, of course, is not like an Asian slur. That is Jewish American princess.
It's an anti-Semitic slur. I'm Jewish, I should say, just in case anybody's unclear on that. As is Rachel.
Yeah, it's those songs are definitely some of the best ones in the entire series. So,
oh, thank you, Ethan.
it was really great to get to hear those. Zach, this has been so much fun having you on the show. It's been a long time coming, and we're really glad that you're able to come see us. I know you're so busy with the Crossword Show, which we can check out by heading over to crosswordshow.com and signing up for the email list, and getting some bonus content by heading over to patreon.com/crosswordshow. And of course, people can check out all of the Crossword Show solos, as well as your music videos and links to some of your epic rap battles appearances by heading over to Zach Sherwin on YouTube. Zach, thank you so much for joining us.
Ethan and Dave, this has truly been a pleasure. I really enjoyed the conversation. Thank you for all your generous questions. And I'm so glad you guys do this podcast.
Thank you so much, Zach. That was so much fun talking to you.
Now, after the interview, Zach not only sent us his palindrome, but he also sent us a link to the deleted scene from The Palindromist, featuring both Zach and our former guest, Mike Kaplan. So we're going to post that link over in our Facebook group, along with the palindrome.
If you want to hear that palindrome right now, it's no snog on sun, Mom. No snog on sun.
Dave, you know, Zach is actually a vegan.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, last time he's in town, I took him to my then favorite vegan restaurant.
Wow, you took Zach to Burrito Burrito?
No.
No? Well, why not?
Well, Burrito Burrito wasn't in existence yet. It's been a few years since Zach was in town.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
And notice how I said my then favorite?
So then, what is your current favorite vegan restaurant?
My current favorite vegan restaurant is vegan Mexican restaurant Burrito Burrito in Shore, New York, home of the 2-pound double-wrapped and quesadilla Burrito Burrito. Come on down to Burrito Burrito and Burrito Burrito your Burrito Burrito. Find them at burritosquare.com and at Burrito Squared on Instagram. And remember, not every burrito is a burrito burrito burrito, but every burrito 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 can be burrito burritoed.
Each week, we are able to bring you this podcast absolutely free thanks to sponsors like Burrito Burrito, Angel Valenzuela and his son David Cash, Discover Darwin, Jackson Scoggins, and all of our amazing close personal friend Patreon supporters, Kenneth, Jared, Zeb, Blair, Allison, and Javier, as well as Stan, Spencer, and so many more.
Revenue from our incredible supporters on patreon.com/2000inch allows us to continue doing what we love, which is making fantastically fun, funny, and family-friendly Weird Al podcasts for you each and every week. We'd absolutely appreciate your consideration in joining our pretty stinking majestic Patreon family for as little as $1 per month.
Looking for another way to support the podcast? Head on over to shop.2000inch.com for official Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast t-shirts, tote bags, mugs, tank tops, face coverings, pillows, and so much more.
Find us online at WeirdAlPodcast.com or 2000inch.com, where you can find information about our guests and listen to past episodes, like episode 3-inch, where we first were joined by Jeff. You can learn about the birthday boy himself and his unique role working with Weird Al. Please join our Facebook group by heading to group.2000inch.com for episode discussions and other exclusive content. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram via @2000inch and at youtube.2000inch.com. Be sure to share our posts and tell your friends to gill and chill.
We love it when you leave us voicemail via our 27-hour-a-day podcast hotline, 347 Spatula. You might even hear your message on the air. You can catch our show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or the podcast app of your choice. Whichever you choose, be sure to hit the subscribe button so that you do not miss any episodes. New episodes drop every Wednesday.
It continues to be the new year. You know what that means. At some point, we'll begin airing our series of bonus episodes where we sit down with John Bermuda Schwartz and go page by page, picture by picture through his brand new book, Black and White and Weird All Over. Time is running out for you to grab the book if you want to be able to follow along with those episodes. Plus, it's a great gift to give someone for Steve J's birthday.
Thank you once again to Zach Sherwin, Adriana Yukovich, Mike Minnick, and all of our listeners, subscribers, Patreon supporters, and sponsors, and everyone who makes this episode and podcast possible.
Now, Zach mentioned spoonerisms in his interview. I'm a huge fan of spoonerisms. Do you think there's any Weird Al related spoonerisms?
Funny that you should ask. On AmIRight.com, Carmen Nunke posted that you can make a spoonerism from a lyric in Weird Al's truck driving song. Instead of the line, got a load to carry and some eyebrows left to pluck, you could say, got a code to Larry and some eyebrows left to buck.
Oh, and for our podcast, Dave and Ethan's 2,000-inch Weird Al podcast becomes Even Ethan's 2,000-inch Weird Al Codcast.
That was Dave and Ethan's 2,000-inch Weird Al podcast, episode 90-inch, voted most likely to co-host a Weird Al podcast in high school.
So apparently Pizza Hut offers pizza bowls, which is pizza without the crust. I would not order a Hut bowl, which if you switch the initial sounds, aka spoonerize it, Hut bowl gives you butthole.